I used to believe love meant endurance. That if you stayed, tolerated, compromised, you were loyal. That's what a good wife did. Marcus wasn't abusive. He wasn't cruel. But for the past 2 years, he stopped seeing me. We went from passionate to polite. He'd say, "Thanks," when I cooked. Nod at night. Fall asleep before I finished speaking. Our marriage became a muted arrangement of 2 strangers with shared bills. I tried. Lingerie. Weekend getaways. Therapy suggestions. He dismissed it all with one phrase, "We're just tired, Danielle." No, I was starving for touch, attention, intimacy. Not just sex, connection. But I stopped trying, because trying and failing felt worse than not trying at all. Tasha, my best friend, dragged me to her church one Sunday. I didn't go for faith. I went because she said the new pastor was different. Young. Real. I didn't expect anything. But then he walked onto the stage. Tall, built like temptation, voice like velvet thunder. Pastor Elijah Carter. He spoke, and I didn't blink. He had presence. Power. Calm. Every woman in that sanctuary was listening, but I felt like he was only talking to me. After the service, he made eye contact as people lined up to shake his hand. His grip was warm, firm. "You're new here. I'm glad you came." That voice. That pause. That smile. I just nodded, but something fluttered in my chest like a warning. I didn't know then what was starting. But something shifted. I came back the next week. Then the one after. I didn't tell Marcus. He wouldn't ask. He barely noticed when I started dressing differently. More care, more skin, perfume. Not for him. Pastor Elijah began greeting me by name. A few times, we spoke after service. He asked real questions. How was I really doing? Did I feel seen at home? He listened. Really listened. Not the way most men did, with an agenda, but with stillness. He never touched me. Not then. But I felt it. The pull. The possibility. The silence between us said more than words. And I hated how much I needed that. From a man who wasn't mine. When I closed my eyes at night, it wasn't Marcus I saw anymore. It was him. His voice. His eyes. And the ache that came with the thought, what if he touched me? It was raining the night everything changed. I stayed after service, alone in the sanctuary, unsure why. I told myself it was just to pray. But I was waiting. Hoping. He found me sitting quietly, eyes closed, and asked if I was okay. I nodded, but I wasn't. Something cracked. I told him I felt invisible in my own home. That I didn't remember the last time someone touched me without obligation. He said nothing for a moment. Then, softly, "You deserve more than that." I looked at him, really looked. His expression was unreadable, calm, but heavy with something unspoken. I should have walked out right then. But I didn't. He said we could talk in his office, more private. I followed. I remember my heart pounding harder with every step. He closed the door. The room felt smaller, warmer. I didn't sit. I just stood there, staring at him. I asked if I was wrong, for feeling things I shouldn't. He walked toward me slowly. "Danielle, I've been trying not to look at you the way I do. But you're impossible to ignore." I stopped breathing. He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch sent a jolt through me. I didn't pull away. When he kissed me, it wasn't rushed. It was deliberate. Like he wanted to remember the shape of my mouth. I kissed him back harder. Weeks of frustration, silence, and craving collapsed into that moment. We didn't speak as it escalated. Hands, breath, skin. It was more than lust. It was desperate. He asked once, his voice low, almost pained, "Do you want me to stop?" And I said the truth, without shame. "Don't stop. Don't ever stop." What happened next didn't feel sinful. It felt like salvation. Like being seen, touched, worshipped, not as a woman doing something wrong, but as someone finally claiming what she needed. There was no awkwardness after. No apology. Just silence. Heavy, meaningful. He held me like he'd been waiting too. I should have felt guilt. But all I felt was alive. I left his office hours later with shaking legs and a clear mind. I knew what I'd done. But I also knew I'd go back. Because now I had tasted something I couldn't forget. And no part of me wanted to. After that night, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I was in it. Fully. We didn't stop. Every week, after service or late in the evening, I'd find myself in his space, in his arms, in his bed. What started as hunger became obsession. I started checking my phone like a teenager, waiting for his messages. He didn't send nudes. He sent verses. Phrases like, "Your body is a temple, and I want to worship." They shouldn't have turned me on. But they did. I convinced myself it was spiritual. That God wouldn't have allowed this fire if it wasn't meant to burn. I told myself lies dressed as love. He made me feel chosen. Marcus had stopped choosing me long ago. I began to resent my husband. Not for what he did, but for what he didn't do. No questions. No curiosity. No noticing that I stayed out late, dressed differently, smiled for no reason. He asked once if I was seeing someone. I looked him dead in the eye and said no. He didn't press. That hurt more than suspicion ever could. I couldn't focus on anything but Elijah. His words, his scent, the way he'd whisper my name like a prayer. I stopped caring if we got caught. I started fantasizing about telling Marcus the truth, packing my things, starting fresh. Elijah never promised a future. But I built one in my head anyway. I imagined being his, publicly. Then came the ministry retreat. An overnight event. I volunteered to help. He made sure we were assigned the same tasks. Everyone else assumed we were just devoted to the mission. Only we knew what we were actually devoted to. That night, we shared a room. No guilt, no pretending. We barely spoke. It was just skin, breath, and heat. He said my name like it belonged to him. And for those hours it did. But something changed after. He held me, but he looked away. When I asked if he was okay, he said, "I care for you more than I should." That sentence stayed with me. I started to feel it, something slipping. But I clung tighter. Told myself I could fix it. That this wasn't just an affair. That it was real. Necessary. Sacred. I didn't realize it then, but I was already losing him. And I had no idea how to stop. He stopped answering my texts as quickly. The verses stopped. The late-night calls turned into silence. At first, I told myself he was busy. Ministry life, meetings, appearances. But I knew the shift. I felt it in his distance, in the hesitation that wasn't there before. Marcus found the messages 2 weeks later. Not the explicit ones, we never left a trail that obvious. But enough to expose everything. One of Elijah's voice notes, saved in my phone. Just his voice, low and intimate, saying my name the way no pastor should. Marcus played it twice. Didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. He just stood there and said, "So this is who you are now." I didn't deny it. I couldn't. I told him I felt alone long before Elijah touched me. That I begged for attention, affection, and he didn't notice until I was already gone. He said nothing. Just walked out. He didn't come back that night. Elijah called the next day. One call. One apology. He said he had to step away. That the church board was suspicious. That God was convicting him. I listened in silence. He wasn't choosing me. He was choosing himself. That broke me more than the end of my marriage. He said he'd always care for me, but that he couldn't be that man anymore. I hung up before he finished. I didn't want soft excuses. I wanted him to fight for what we had. He didn't. I sat alone in that silence for days. No husband. No lover. Just the echo of choices I couldn't undo. I kept playing his last message on loop, like it held a different ending if I listened hard enough. The house felt colder. Emptier. But I wasn't numb. I was raw. Awake. I missed Elijah. I even missed Marcus. But more than anything, I missed the version of me that hadn't yet crossed the line. I don't regret it. That's the part that haunts me most. I should. But I don't. Because for a while, I was seen. desired, touched like I mattered. He eventually stopped. They always do. But when I begged him not to, I meant it. Not because I loved him, but because I loved how I felt when he looked at me. And I haven't felt that way since.